I would like to read a scripture to you. It is in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 13. It says, "The cloak that I left at Troas with Carpus, when thou comest, bring with thee, and the books, but especially the parchments." So the Apostle Paul was telling, who was it? Tychicus. So the Apostle Paul sent Tychicus to Ephesus. This is 2 Timothy 4, 12 and 13, to Ephesus. And he said, "The cloak that I left at Troas with Carpus, when thou comest, bring with thee, and the books, but especially the parchments." So I want to talk to you just for a couple minutes about books. Books. One thing that I have noticed in my time around people is that there's two kinds of people when it comes to books. Those who have discovered them and those who haven't. Let's just put it that way. Those who read and those who don't. And it's almost like those who don't haven't discovered the power of reading yet. You know, they haven't discovered the transformation that takes place when you can sit in a room and read about another person's tremendous life in one book. And we're going to talk about this book here in a second. And a lot of these people, they're just limited to, what goes on in this one brain of theirs right here. And they never tap into all of the encyclopedias and all of the dictionaries and all of the books and writings of so many other people. I'm reading The Trail of Tears right now, which is just incredible story about the Indians and how what the white man did to the Indians. It's just incredible. That's one of many books. You can be transported back in time and almost relive a lot of that. But in Christianity and among Christians, what I've found is that there's a lot of people that just never discovered. And a lot of these Christians, I just want to point out, become very limited in what they know. You don't know what you don't know, and it shows. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but it shows. I'm sure there's a lot of people that know, that know a lot more than I do, and they look at me and they think the same thing. It sure does show what I don't know. It really shows whenever there's somebody that just doesn't ever pick up a book. They never read about another life story. They never read about what took place in Russia. Sergei Kurdakov was a Russian KGB that was hired to find the most ruthless men to persecute Christians in Russia. And this is his story, how he persecuted Christians, and then how he got saved himself, and how he jumped off of a ship, and that was his only way to escape the Russia KGB team that he created himself. And he washed up on a shore and was able to be taken in, and nobody could believe his story. It was so outrageous. But this is the result. This book right here, I highly recommend it. It might be backwards. On here, but it's called The Persecutor. The Persecutor. That's him right there. It's an old book. But in these pages right here, he tells the story of how he was hired because he was one of the most ruthless men in the KGB. And Christianity was on the rise back then. I think it was like in the 50s. And it was a threat to communism, And just to give you an example, and a lot of Christians today, they'd be like, "Oh, that's terrible. I don't want to hear that." Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. Christians today want to stay in their little shell, their little safe, comfy zone. And it's disgusting. It really is. They don't want to hear Maybe that's why they don't read. They don't want to know, what can happen to them, what can happen here in this country. They don't want to know what their brothers and sisters went through. They don't want to know how God has saved and delivered really bad people, because it just offends them. It just offends them. I don't want to know about that, and it shows. It shows in a lot of these shallow-minded, weak, immature, baby, spoon-fed Christians that we have today. It really does show. And there's so many, I might start a series of books that I recommend and why, I just might, because, maybe there's somebody out there that, may pick one of these up and read one, you never know. So, The Persecutor by Sergio Kardakov, right there. I highly recommend this book right here. So as I was saying, like one of the things that he would do is him and his team of KGB thugs, ruthless, violent men who hated God, atheists, did not believe in God. Their God was communism. They was hired to stamp out Christianity in Russia, to stamp it out, to get rid of it, like a bad disease. They would hide out along the river where it was known to be baptisms down there. And when these innocent Christians, brand new Christians, converts to Christianity, would come down there to get baptized, they would try to come down there discreetly because it was outlawed. You can't just come down there publicly. They would kind of sneak down there, but him and his team would be waiting, and when they would get in the waters, they would come out with baseball bats and stuff their mouths full of sand into their throats. And as they were choking on the sand, these new converts now, brand new converts getting baptized, as they were choking on the sand, they would take their baseball bats and just bash their heads in, right off their neck. Just bash it in violently. And it would be a bloodbath, because his team, would be, 15, 20, 25, 30 people coming out with baseball bats. And they would beat those people to death. There's so many stories. There's some stories I won't tell. Some stories I won't tell right now. I just want, for those that are hungry, for those who have not discovered the power of being transported to another place and time, and you're hungry, I'll let you decide if you want to read. But anyway, that's that book right here, and that's just one of many, many stories. But then he ended up actually, they made a movie, by the way, they made a movie out of this too. So anyway, that's that one. This one right here is called The Pastor's Wife. And let me say this right here. This, I bring this up, it looks like old fashioned and stuff like that. And that's the thing. Nowadays, everybody wants to go to the Christian bookstore. They want to get the new, shiny, regurgitated merchandising. A lot of this modern stuff that you buy at a Christian bookstore, it's regurgitated. All they are doing is refabricating and refurbishing stuff that has already been dug up and used, stuff that are created of another man's stories, of a book from before. A lot of these books are just recreated. It's like refurbished, ran through the mill again, and put in a new shiny package and a new little a title with a new author, with a little new twist, and a big price hike on it, and packaged as new and improved. But it's not. It's just modern packaging with a modern name and a modern author, but all they did was use the originator, the one who dug it out of the well and out of the mine, dug the minerals out of the mine, and dug that stuff up, or lived that life himself, and used his material. So you can go to the Christian bookstore if you want and pay $29.99 for some new shiny book that's just regurgitated stuff. But I'll tell you, these old-time books right here will give you an in-depth, heavy-hitting truth that you can't get out of most of this stuff that's new on the shelves today. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. That's right. I am trying to help you. I've already read this book once, and I'm reading it again. That's where I'm at on my second trip through, right here, about halfway through. But The Pastor's Wife, this is Sabrina Wurmbrand. She was married to Richard Wurmbrand, the founder of Voice of the Martyrs. Now, he himself has his own, he spent 14 years in a Romanian prison. He was tortured in every which way you could ever even imagine. Okay? That's for a whole other video on its own. But I really love this book right here because this is his wife, from his wife's point of view. She was put in prison for about half that amount of time, 8 years. She was put in prison, and she was made to perform hard labor working on the Danube Canal over in Romania. If you get on the map over in Europe, you look up the Danube, Danube Canal, and you look where it runs all the way up from like Amsterdam all the way down through Germany and Switzerland, all the way through Europe, basically, the Danube River. She spent 8 years of her life, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, working on that canal for 8 years in a hard labor camp because she was arrested for being a pastor's wife. Let me say that again. She was arrested for being a pastor's wife by the Romanian government. And she spent 8 years in a hard labor prison, hard labor, busting up rocks, carrying heavy rocks and tools, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And she tells her story in here. You won't get that at a modern day Christian bookstore. You don't get that in modern day Christianity. That's what's wrong with today's Christianity. Everything's watered down, modernized, all about money, all about easy believism, and all about praying a quick prayer, and getting it over with. My battery's about to die. I want to get this done, so I'm going to try to hurry up here. But anyhow, this is Sabrina Wurmbrand, okay? The Pastor's Wife. All right, I'm gonna make more of these. There's so much. I can't tell you about the whole book, but there's more to come on these. Hopefully, if there's somebody out there that does like books, enjoys books, or you're starting to get back into reading, I got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this. Only because I had started reading a long time ago, and I want to share books that I have found to be very rich in experience and rich in knowledge and rich in information. So just hang tight. That's coming. God bless you. Bye.